exercise. And after I left Kansas in 2020 and beat leukemia that same month, I started a new lease on life and led me to this mission of promoting physical activity. I started a non-for-profit called Hyperion, also known as Hype Health, which really is the ultimate goal is to provide tools to adolescents to be physically active outside of youth sport. Please note that I have a huge passion in sports. Obviously, my career was built around it, but I was given a unique opportunity in my role at Kansas to be at the table in regards to everything we did to develop the student athlete. And I found everything to be relevant to the everyday kid. And so my goal was to take all of my knowledge and transition it to the youth space. And with my personal experience of my son at age 9, when I found suicide drawings of him that he had done, R.I.P. Jackson, and a picture of him hanging himself, it led me on an even bigger mission to promote physical activity. And it really started because I watched our pediatrician sit and talk to my 9-year-old about how he was going to give him this pill to help him with his anxiety and his depression, but that pill was not going to work unless he did all of these other things, which was sleep well, eat right, get physical activity, spend time with his family and his friends. And I was sitting there at, the age of 39, learning all this with my 9-year-old. And what we learned is after a year, we were able to change the way he thinks. We were able to get him off the medicine. And with about a year and a half of therapy, he was able to go on to living an extremely healthy and happy life. And we talk a lot about growth mindset, but physical activity is a part of his daily life. To this day, he'll be a freshman next year, so he's 8th grader, walks home from school because of that personal experience. But during my transition personally, I would go to the health club as a safe space. It was a mental health release for me, and I started to recognize that there was a need for a place for our kids to be physically active, and we needed the tools and to provide that. There was some interesting statistics. I'd like to share my screen regarding Hyperion and I thought and why I built it. But what I learned, and I didn't know these things until I kind of dove into some research about 3 months of a rabbit hole, to be honest with you. And depression is the leading cause of illness amongst 12 to 18-year-olds. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death amongst teenagers. Xanax prescriptions for teenagers have risen over the last 2 years. 24% of youth meet CDC guidelines of 60 minutes of physical activity per day. 17% of youth age 11 through 19 are considered obese. And only 50% of high school students participate in sports. And I found these all to be kind of alarming statistics when I was doing my research. And I started to wonder, where do kids go to be physically active if kids don't have a place if they're not involved in sports? And the reality is that there really isn't. Society as a whole has basically developed this mindset that up until the age of 18, youth sports is the outlet. And unfortunately, because of the way the youth sport market is and how it's become such a big business, and there's lack of policy or federal or state guidelines around youth sports, it's causing issues in terms of kids staying active and competing in those sports. And by age 12, I think 50% of kids quit playing sports, and only 50% of kids, period. So by age 12, 75% of kids don't play sports. And I started to realize, well, if kids aren't playing sports and we're not participating in physical education in our schools, well, how are kids being physically active? And so I met with a group of DECA leadership kids at the Mill Valley High School in December of 2020. And because I had this idea, I'm like, I believe there needs to be a place that kids can go to be physically active, to learn the habits, to, whether sports involved or not, a safe space for them to go. And so I reached out and met with these kids and asked about using them as a focus group. And about an hour into the meeting, it was no longer, am I going to go down this path and pursue this mission? It's how am I going to do it? And those 20 kids became my student leadership team. And we really started to get into the market and promote, the need for physical activity, the need for a place for kids to benefit from exercise. And what I found to be so interesting in all my research is the lack of promotion of physical activity when it came to mental health. And what I learned and from my own personal experience and from my experience with my son, was what it could do. And just here are some interesting facts regarding physical activity. And again, I am not a doctor. I am just a mom, and with a passion around promoting mental health through physical activity, both from my personal and professional experience. But exercise has an immediate, long-term and protective benefits on the brain. A simple 20-minute walk can immediately lower anxiety, depression, and improve focus and attention by increasing neurochemicals for up to 120 minutes. Regular exercise increases growth hormone production. Children with growth hormone deficiency often have sleep disorders, failure to mature psychologically, and impaired personality development. Regular exercise helps build tolerance to internal discomfort, leading to an increase in stress and resilience. And continued exercise provides a preventative measure to memory and memory loss by creating brain cells within the hippocampus. And what I found, and I think the most amazing and beneficial piece to all this, is that physical activity can be done at zero cost. I've met with a variety of behavioral health specialists and done all I can to educate myself so that I can educate others in regards to this space. And with 6.1 million kids a year being diagnosed with ADHD and provided a pill, it's come to a consensus, as with all professionals in my conversations, that there's a massive need to come up with an alternative for kids to battle mental health. And what I have found is, this type of safe space that I'm referring to is somewhat in the market when it comes to the low income market and the low income families in regards to the Boys and Girls Club, to the YMCA. But in reality, it really doesn't matter what your economic background is. Every kid needs a place to go be physically active and be provided the tools. And the research that I have found has shown that a lot of the suicide attempts and suicides that have happened in the higher income spaces and markets. And so no matter the gender, the race, the economic background of an adolescent, the reality is that we're failing our youth in regards to providing opportunity for physical activity. And we've only seen a decrease in the schools in regards to physical education. I think less than 50% of high school students participate in a physical education class a week. And so the correlation between the two was very relevant to me. And so what our mission is to provide space to promote physical activity, to work with local community members and help develop a health club per se for our youth that can give them a place to develop these daily habits. Some interesting facts regarding Gen Z is that they look at health and fitness in a more holistic experience. 55% of them use their smartphones on average per day. 50% want to work out regularly, but they need help getting started. 36% are exercising regularly, and 30% are regularly using fitness facilities. with 44% of regular exercising using some fitness apps outside of the gyms. But the health club industry does not focus on providing and promoting to the 18 and under market. I think in 2020, less than 100,000 kids went to a health club or a fitness center. And what I'm not trying to combat the idea that youth sports is something that needs to change in regards to taking it away or decreasing it. Obviously, youth sports needs a rehaul and needs to have some policy and state guidelines involved with it in order to manage it. And yes, we need to bring back the rec sport component of youth sports so that we can provide every kid an opportunity to be a part of a team and be involved in youth sports and whatnot. But the reality is that not every kid plays sports. And how are we going to teach these kids, and how are we going to provide them with a tool to be active, a place to go, the resources, especially if that healthy lifestyle living doesn't happen within their home. And so these 20 students that I worked with really helped develop a model of what Hyperion's ultimate goal is, which is to create a health club for our youth. And I would call it a summer camp mentality combined with a health club, combined with what I've seen in developing the student athlete and all of the whole health elements that go into it. We want to provide the resources and the tools to every kid to have emotional, physical, spiritual, social, and financial health. We want to give them a safe space. We want to provide a parent-free environment where kids can go and they have the ability to take risks, by giving them opportunities in positive risk-taking can lead to benefits outside of that space. And so ultimately, Hyperion's mission is to create the health club and partner with organizations in different communities to provide the financial resources and the facilities and the mentorship to teach kids the habits of physical activity. In 2021, the Surgeon General released an advisory on the status of our mental health. And what I found extremely interesting is in the conversation from the government and the U.S. Surgeon General's office, physical activity was not one of their solutions. Yet the science and the research and everything around it proves that it is an immense benefit to the mental health of every individual, including our youth. And so in the goal to get to this point and to provide these resources, it can't be done alone. There are ways that communities can help and work together to provide these spaces. We're currently working to raise funds to provide health club memberships to those with behavioral health specialists as part of a prescription plan, to give them a month to 2 months membership at local health clubs, whether it be Anytime Fitness, Genesis, Planet Fitness, and whatnot, to provide a secondary prescription in addition to drug therapy, or maybe in replace of drug therapy, to give kids the resources and the tools to be physically active, and the idea of changing the way that they live and how they look at life, and giving them confidence and everything that they would need that would benefit them from today to the rest of their life. One of the alarming things with youth, and it goes back to the obesity thing, is because society's only outlet for youth sports or for physical activity in youth is really youth sports. And the obesity epidemic that has tripled over the last 20 years with our youth, with over 20% of our kids being obese, youth sports is not the outlet to help them in that space. It is, it takes confidence, it takes, athletic ability, it takes all these things to participate in youth sports. But as an obese child, those pieces are missing. And so it's really hard for someone who is obese to go jump into a team or to a sport and feel comfortable and want to continue to do it. So what do we do for those kids? What do we have as a solution? I found that in all the research, whether it's the CDC, the U.S. Surgeon General's office, all government agencies identify this massive concern in this society in regards to youth and mental health. But there's really no solution other than youth sports. And as a mom of 3 boys, my oldest son played sports up until he was injured. And at age 12, he was no longer able to play. And it's been a challenge to try to keep him physically active and continue to build habits around healthy living and whatnot. It's been a huge social detriment because he hasn't been able to be around his friends. And because he can't play sports with them, and it has caused a mental decline. And then I have 2 other boys that just one is flat out not interested in sports, and I struggle to find ways to get him to be physically active. I try to bring him to the gym. The gym, unfortunately, is built for adults, and that's great, but it isn't exactly the most friendly space for youth to come in and to learn and to trial and error and to take risks and to make decisions on their own, and how they want to live a healthy life. And so the more we can work together as a society, the more we can start to implement physical activity as a solution outside of sports, in addition to sports. Kids need a place to be physically active that doesn't require an expectation, that some days that they just need to go on a walk, or some days that they just want to get on a bike, or if they just want to do a boxing class or whatever it may be, but that there's really no expectation other than they show up and they move and they do it because it makes them feel better. I was interesting when I was talking to these 20 high school students who absolutely supported and wanted and were begging for a place like this and a place to go that they could have all the tools and resources. They referenced that there's really no place that they go in their daily life where there's not something expected of them. And I really never even thought about it until I met with these students and we started talking, and I was like, what would you want in a place like this? What do you need? What would make you want to show up? And it all came down to, they just want to go and be a kid, and risk taking, we know, is a natural part of life, and in growth and youth. And we identified that if we can provide different experiences and expose kids to different opportunities that maybe they've never even thought of before, hence a boxing class or a yoga class, or just provide them the cardio equipment or the weight equipment for them to freely go in and make their own decisions, just like an adult would when they go to the gym, would give them a sense of accomplishment, would give them a sense of ownership. And that they're doing it just for them. But, when they go to home, they go to work, they go to school, they go to their sports, they're at a friend's house, no matter where they are in their daily life, there's an expectation. And that's what I think was the most shocking piece, was that if we could give them a place, and if we can give them the tools that allow them to be a kid, that teach them daily habits around physical activity, that give them positive risk-taking opportunities, that give them ownership in their decision-making, that provide those mental development tools such as leadership and whatnot, in a space where they can all live on a daily basis, that they would thrive from it, and that all of these resources and all of the daily habits and the tools that we're giving them would be beneficial for years to come. But the reality, there's 71 million kids in the United States under the age of 18, and youth sports is a $77 billion industry with zero oversight from the government at any level. But the reality is only 500,000 kids go and compete in college athletics at every level. And by age 23, less than 2% are still competing or playing at a professional level. And so what we're doing today in the youth sports space, and the amount of time and energy and pressure and everything that goes into youth sports with our youth, the specialization and whatnot, is coming to a detriment of their long-term health. And, today's healthcare, $100+ billion industry, servicing mostly 50 and over, those individuals lived a much healthier life than our current kids do. And if we don't change the course and the direction of what we're doing, we're failing as a society. And I think where we can be the most successful in this space is starting with our kids. I think it's hard to change the mindset of adults. And so by giving the power back to our youth and letting them make decisions and providing them the tools, and giving them opportunity and a platform, we can change the trajectory of their health. But at the rate we're going today, I'm scared to see what the next 10, 15 years hold. But back to the statistics, it's crazy that it didn't really come to light to me until I dove into this. But how is it as a society that only 23% of our kids are moving? If we were to take that into a grading system, we would be getting an F. How is it that over 20% of our kids are obese? If we're failing our youth, and it's tripling. Some interesting statistics in regards to the suicide. When I brought suicide up in front of the class, it was a sensitive subject, and talking to these 20 kids, and over half of them started crying because over half of them had been affected by somebody who had either tried to hurt themselves or had talked about suicide. And it was the most emotional moment I'd had in my 20 years in my career in terms of working with a group of kids. And it was something that, with suicide, part of the issue is that in order to get proper help, you have to have parental consent. And one of the biggest things that came to light with the youth was that when they're in a mental state like that, their parents they're not going to their parents to talk about it. So how do we help provide them the resources and to have that mental health support, the proper mental health support, to help them outside of their friends and whatnot, so that they can just have the conversation. And, one of the things that was discussed in our conversation about providing a space for whole health development, for physical activity, and all these other things with the youth was, if we could have a 24-hour hotline. And I was blown away by the fact that they wanted a 24-hour hotline. And I was like, well, that's, we need to do better than that. What do we mean a 24-hour hotline? And like, well, we just, sometimes if we could just have a place to talk. And so we started talking about, okay, well, what if every member of our group could get a better help therapy account, where when you sign up to be a member, your parents are agreeing that you're going to get an online therapy account so that you have the ability to have a safe space for a conversation. And what that would provide would be, 3 20-minute, whatever the number may be, 20-minute conversations with a trained therapist, just to be able to talk about what you're going through. And it was the most responsive they've been, because I think the ability to talk to somebody is what they're missing, an unbiased and unjudgmental person that can just let them share their thoughts and their feelings, and then give them the proper tools or the proper education on what next steps could be to help them get through their thoughts. And the idea is that's where the parent would come back in. But the research that I found, it's that roughly 60% of the time, if somebody can have the conversation around their thoughts, it changes the way they think. And so what the goal is, like I said, the mission is to begin to promote movement as medicine, and to start working with community folks, behavioral therapists, educators, doctors, parents, anybody in the youth space, to promote physical activity in addition or in place of drug therapy. And but it requires a change in thinking. It requires providing space and obviously resources for that. But if we can find a way to create an environment where kids can go, that they have no expectation other than to show up and be given the freedom to make decisions and create habits and be physically active at whatever level they're feeling, whether some days they go in and they just want to stretch in the corner, or some days they want to go in and they want to have an intense workout, that they're given that freedom, they're given the space, they're given the leadership, and they're given the mentorship and the resources from science-based and data-driven information to be able to do that. You know, the Aspen Institute has been a big advocate in this space. They obviously have a youth sports space, but I found this information to be extremely beneficial in talking about what active kids can do, and what the research shows on the compounding benefits. But you know, obviously active parents associate with active kids. But if we don't have active parents, how can we promote physical activity with the youth outside of sports? How can we encourage 20-minute walks? Is it, you know, do we work with the schools and obviously the education system and bringing back the PE component? But the physically active, you know, as it states here, 1 in 10 is likely to be obese, up to 40% higher in test scores, less smoking, drug use, pregnancy, and risky sex, 15% are more likely to go to college. There's a 7 to 8% annual earnings increase, lower health costs, more productive at work, reduced risk of heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes, and on and on. And so as a community and as a mom in this space and someone who has a passion for promoting physical activity and for the benefit of mental health, that's my ultimate goal. And that's what I've spent the last 3 years doing, and hoping to gain relationships and work within the community to find other ways to do this. And it started, I have partnered with the Hy-Vee Arena as one of our locations. I'm also talking with the health clubs, again, in the fundraising component of providing discounted gym memberships for folks. We're working in the city of Shawnee in creating the first Hype Health Club. And we are in conversations with the chamber, the Visit Shawnee, the school, DeSoto School District, to provide a healthy living environment for our youth. And the goal is to take this model and to grow it, and to put these in every community, whether you're high, middle, low income, to promote physical activity in addition to promoting youth sports. So I don't know, I know I'm done a little early, but if we want to start questions or whatnot, I'm open to doing that now.
Now is the time to ask questions. What kind of questions do you have? You can either write it in the chat or you can put it in the Q&A.
Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions. If there's, oh, I'm sorry.
So there's a question, what recommendations do you currently have for parents trying to get their kids to move more outside of sports?
So the number one thing was when in talking with the pediatricians was that to do it in groups, to provide to that the kids are more likely to be physically active with their friends instead of individuals. So if there's ways to work with other parents or provide an opportunity for a group of kids to get outside, to take a walk, to go to the park, really to the local rec centers is a big initiative, but the biggest one in terms of seeing the most success in kids being physically active on their own is to do it with their peers. And yes, my non-for-profit does have a website. It's currently being redone, but for those that want to take a look, when it does go back online, it's hyperionhealth.us. And I can type that up. Again, please know, everyone, that I started this on my own 3 years ago in conjunction with 20 high school students, with a goal of changing the way kids live on a daily basis, with the promotion of mental health as the end result. Okay, another question was, do you think that for your son, it was his mental health concerns that convinced him to get started, or do you have tips and tricks to convince them? I do think it was the doctor that made the probably gave the most push in terms of it was important for him to exercise for 20 minutes. I think the doctor played a key role in it, but it was definitely something that we required and we would do as a family. And a lot of the times we would take the walk after we would eat dinner. And the therapist played a big role in it as well. It was a holistic effort from his pediatrician and his therapist and the family to promote physical activity as part of the prescription to his mental health issues.
So we have another question, and the individual is talking about gym memberships. They said that this has been very insightful and that sports has been a huge help for them. And they want to know about gym memberships. They're interested in learning more. As a single mom, those can be very expensive.
Yes, I would encourage them to email us. You can email me and myself. We're working on, as part of the website rehaul, we're working to have a submission for those that are in need or have a need, in partnership with just spreading the word in Hyperion and what our mission is, as well as with behavioral health. So if there is somebody that is interested in receiving a gym membership or working with us, in whether at rec center, down at Hy-Vee Arena, or any space, to please email me and I will be happy to discuss options and what we can do to help.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, okay. So somebody was saying Kevin Hines has some videos on using exercise to manage his mental health. Not really a question, just a person with lived experience. So thank you, Laura. Kevin Hines has been an excellent advocate talking about mental health. And now we have another question. Have you considered partnering with local parks and rec alongside clubs to offer memberships similar to the Park RX program?
I have not heard of the Park RX program, but I will definitely look into it. Yes, that is what we are working on right now. So Hy-Vee Arena offers we're working with them to raise funds for a $30 membership. Kids can come at any time to use the weight room, the track, the courts. And then we are in discussion with Genesis, Planet Fitness, and Anytime Fitness to offer discounted memberships for kids with behavioral health issues. And that's where the fundraising comes into that, we're raising funds, working with behavioral health specialists to with their clients that they think might be beneficial, that we can give the funds to offer these memberships. So I'm open and would love any contacts or insight on any other organizations that have a similar mission, where we could collaborate. Obviously, the more we could work together as a team, the better off we will be. And I am all about learning and taking ideas and hoping to help execute from others as well.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming. The certificate of attendance is in the chat. If anybody needs it again, let me know. I can also post it again. And want to thank Jennifer so very much for coming today, for offering her lived experience and expertise, and being vulnerable, to be able to share her experience. So we thank you so much, Jennifer. And I know I learned quite a bit. I'm a huge believer that movement really is so incredible for our mental health. So excited that we can now talk about that in our metro. So thank you,
So much.
Jennifer.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you everyone for attending. Our next webinar will be 2 weeks from today. So the 4th Thursday of the month, which is January 25th. And we have Andrea Dalton speaking. She will be talking about harnessing the power of music for well-being. So look forward to her presentation as well. And if you are interested in presenting, please let us know. We are happy to, we're still accepting applications for our webinars. We are also accepting applications still for the Mental Health KC conference. So again, Mental Health KC conference will be May 23rd and 24th. May 23rd, Jesse, I will help you in a second. I'll see if I can help you. May 23rd from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. May 24th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it'll be held at Jalta County Community College. So we're still accepting applications for speakers, but please save the date. It'll be an incredible conference with a ton of breakout sessions and some incredible national keynote presenters. So we'll stay around for a few minutes in case anybody has any other questions. And thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.